Let's talk about a pruning strategy for when you need to get your American elderberry to ripen a little earlier. Maybe your growing season is just too short where you live. The good news is there is a strategy that can get elderberry to ripen several weeks earlier. Latitude of 50.7, 131 growing degree days. This is how it'll look for the most part when I finish pruning a row of elderberry. Now, if you live somewhere in the world where you're at a more southerly latitude or you have a longer growing season than I do, you're probably going to coppice. You're going to cut these elderberry right to the ground every single year, or quite close to the ground, maybe right down like this. Pruning like this to a foot or two height it allows me to have my berries ripen 1 or 2 weeks, about 2 weeks earlier than they would if I coppiced it right to the ground. But with going even taller, leaving them even taller after pruning will give me another 2 weeks earlier, so a full month earlier ripening than if it was coppiced. Here's my row of Wyldewood, and Wyldewood is an example of where I've used this method. I like to call it the Quebec method because that's how Quebec has a short season, and that's how I've seen pruning done there. So what I did last year is, instead of cutting it down to 1 to 2 feet, I left it here to like 4 feet or 6 feet, and you can see that's a 1-year-old stem. It was a primocane last year. Here's a fresh primocane, no side branches. You can just see the little node there with the 2 buds, and here after a year of growing we've got all these side branches. So that's a 2-year-old stem, and that's how I left it last year. So I'm going to show you how I prune to achieve this, and this has allowed me to grow Wyldewood and for it to be one of my best performing varieties, whereas until I discovered this training method I wasn't able to get it to ripen on time. The berries would be just a little bit underripe and winter would be coming, and it was just what the berries weren't ripening. With this method, things ripen way earlier. The taller the shoot, when you finish pruning, the sooner it'll ripen. So you might use this method if you live where there is a shorter growing season than where I live. I'll just quickly show you my pruner of choice. This is a Vesco X37AF, its extended pole. Oh, I just love pruning with it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to get rid of any of these older canes. I'm going to go right in there, as you can see, cut them right off the ground. The next thing I'm going to do is remove any thin canes. I like to remove any that are less than 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters of diameter, but you can leave them if there are few to none of the larger canes. Then you need to thin the remaining canes out. If you don't thin them, then you won't have any good new primocanes produced for next year. This is the key rule of thumb for pruning any elderberry bush. The more you prune the plant back, the more new growth it will produce next year. So your pruning needs to trigger the plant to renew itself. You need to prune enough of the stems away that the plant receives its signal to grow a fresh batch of strong primocanes for next year. With this pruning method, you have to prune out at least 30%. 1 in 3 canes must be removed at minimum. The more you prune away, the more nice, strong primocanes you get next year. The less you prune away, the more fruit you get this year, but if you don't prune away enough, there will be no new canes to bear fruit next year. So, in 3 simple steps. 1, remove all 2-year-old and older stems. Number 2, remove any thin or weak stems. And 3, prune out 1/3 of remaining primocanes. Oh, and an optional 4th step. You can top the remaining canes to 4 or 6 feet. That way, if there are any tall ones, you can trim them down a bit. And that is all you have to do when pruning elderberry bushes for an extremely short growing season.